Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Germany once again for the first time in what feels like a good long while. Now, we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a couple of times before. These guys are a very recognisable brewery and you should have access to their beers fairly easily from what I've seen in most places, but I haven't actually reviewed anything from these guys since about 2017 apparently, which is just crazy to think. So I do need to make sure I work my way through the beers that I haven't tried from this brewery over the next little while. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I haven't tried from this brewery before. It is one though that I've really grown to enjoy again over the last couple of years, and they are growing in popularity, I would say, as well. So yeah, it should be a really interesting one. So hopefully this is another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Bavaria, Bayern, in the southern part of Germany. We're going to go to the Munich area, and then we're going to go southwest of the city to a little place called Andechs, and that of course means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Klosterbrauerei Andechs. So this particular beer is called Andechser Hell. It comes in at 4.8% ABV, and as the name suggests, this one is a German Helles lager. So yeah, this is a beer that I've had I think for a couple of months actually. It's been sitting in my fridge for a good little while. So yeah, this has been one that I've really been wanting to get around to reviewing for quite some time. Of course, for me, the Andechser Doppelbock is a beautiful beer, and I think we've had one of the Weiss beers on the channel before as well, if memory serves me correctly. But I just kind of came across this one quite randomly. I think I got this in Valhalla's Goat through in Glasgow, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I wanted to have a go at this one and just see what it's all about. But definitely cool to return to these guys again after what has been at least 6 years as far as I know. So yeah, let's crack on with this one and see what it's all about. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Klosterbrauerei Andechs before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. I'm not going to leave it 6 more years before we do another Andechs beer, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries, and you'll find this one in the German playlist along with a number of other things. And we will have some really nice German beers coming up for you on the channel over the next little while. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit more once again about Klosterbrauerei Andechs, and I will apologise in advance for any bad German pronunciations in this video. But yeah, as I've mentioned to you already, Klosterbrauerei Andechs are based in the little town of Andechs to the southwest of Munich, München in Bavaria, Bayern. But the roots of the Andechs brewery is linked to the Benedictine monks of the Andechs monastery in Tegernsee, who began brewing beer officially in the year 1455. But it is believed that they've been brewing since the Middle Ages, when Albrecht III of the House of Wittelbach, who was the Duke of Bavaria, founded the Benedictine monastery on Andechs mountain. But yeah, as the name suggests, Klosterbrauerei, whenever you see Klosterbrauerei in Germany, it means Kloster is basically monastery, so that's a little German lesson for you. But apparently the German monastic breweries would produce different types of beer. They would usually have 1, a simple thinner beer for the kind of poorer pilgrims and guests, 2, a beer that was, you know, a kind of normal beer that was brewed specially for the monks, and then in the third case they would have a particularly strong beer for abbots and high-ranking guests. And apparently in these times the concept of the quality of beer was really linked to the strength of the beer, in fact. But in 1850, the Andechs monastery became part of the Abbey of St Boniface in Munich, and then Peter Magnus Sattler left a huge imprint on the brewery as it is today. He modernised the monastery and the outbuildings, which prepared the brewery for the times ahead. But then in 1871, he converted the brewery to steam power, and then in 1893 and 1894, he renovated the cask barn and brew house respectively, and then the Paters Augustin Engel and Maurus Rat were responsible for the other developments, such as the new malt house that came in 1906 and the new filling facilities in 1925 and 1958. Later on in 1968, the malt house was closed, and brother Oswald Azer, the last brewer of the Andechs monastery, went into retirement. So the brewery was beginning to suffer from lack of space at the Holy Mountain, and the abbey was then faced with the question of having to close the brewery completely or invest in a new building. But they decided to do the latter, and under the supervision of Pater Daniel Gerritsen, the new building was constructed at the foot of the Holy Mountain, and thus the brewery had space to grow into the modern age. But the process began in 1972, and many additions and alterations were made to the brewery over the following years, and the filling building was completed in 1974, and the fermentation and storage cellars began operation 10 years later in 1984. But Pater Anselm Bilgeri also expanded the brewery sales division during his time, and then over the course of 1990 to 1991, the bottling facility was renovated, and at the suggestion of Abbot Odilo Lechner, the light and dark Weiss beers were produced from 1993 and 1997 respectively. But today the brewery are committed to continually modernising their operations to maintain a steady business and supporting their employees and charitable causes in their local area, and they've also won several environmental awards as well, from what I understand. So yeah, they've got the EMAS certification apparently, which is the Eco Management and Audit Scheme in Germany. But the brewery apparently source all of their ingredients from fairly local to them, in Bavaria, of course, or a little bit over to the west in Baden-Württemberg. Most of their hops, from what I understand, come from the Tettnang region, which is in the very south of Baden-Württemberg, but I think that does actually kind of spread into Bavaria a little bit as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Klosterbrauerei Andechs for the moment. I couldn't actually get a figure on how much beer they're producing per year, but they do have about 15 or so different beers that they produce very regularly. But yeah, that is everything that I can tell you about the brewery. Like I said, if you want to learn a little bit more about the Andechs, Klosterbrauerei Andechs, and the history of the monastery going further back, you can of course check out the brewery website, and the Wikipedia page has quite a nice bit of information about the Benedictine monks in the wider scope of Europe, and also specifically in the town of Andechs. It just depends what you want to look at, of course. But yeah, check out all the usual links in the video description below, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that Klosterbrauerei Andechs are producing. But yeah, let's get on then and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So as I mentioned to you earlier, this one comes in at 4.8% ABV. It is a German Helles lager. So remember, the technical definition of a lager is a beer that undergoes bottom yeasted fermentation, if we can call it that. So it ferments at a lower temperature, usually 8 to 12 degrees Celsius. And a Helles lager is simply a blonde lager, normally, usually quite bready, if you like. There are a few other types of blonde lager, such as the Pils, which originates in the city of Pilsen in the Czech Republic. And the Czechs do have a kind of analogous style of this one, or synonymous style, I guess we should say, which is the kind of Svetli lager. So yeah, this one is basically a blonde lager, so that is the Helles. But Andechser Hell just means that this is the Helles of Andechs. So yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. But I'll just let you have another wee look at the label there. There you can see the monastery on the hill at Andechs. You can see that is on the you can see that's also on the bottle cap there, which is very nice, and this is a half-litre bottle. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. My first beer from Andechs in quite some time. So let's do this. And yeah, you can see I got my nice Pilsner Urquell glass out for this one. This should be very, very nice. There we are. The beer looks absolutely great. Yeah. So, as you can see, and as you would expect of a Helles lager beer, it's poured that lovely, pale, golden straw colour. So you would normally get a little bit more head on it if you brought it out the tap, of course, but yeah, maybe I didn't pour it aggressively enough. But you can see the beer is poured here with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say, very slightly cream coloured head. I don't know if I would go as far as saying that this one is perfect white, but you can see there's a mixture of very small foamy bubbles in there and some medium-sized ones. But it actually looks great, I have to say. It really looks great in my opinion. But yeah, lovely kind of pale golden straw colour to it. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort ball is also going to play a role. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect the colour of it as well. But yeah, you don't often have to care about those latter two variables when it comes to lager beers in general. But yeah, this one looks very, very nice, I have to say. Yeah, it looks great. You can see it's got a nice natural little bit of haze to it as well, which is always great to see on a Helles lager. Not too much in the way, a little bit of visible carbonation, one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But yeah, it looks very, very nice. You can see there's a nice ring around the edge of the glass now, but the head has faded away to be a thin kind of foamier layer. But yeah, let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see what it's all about. Oh, yeah, there's just something about these German produced lager beers that it's just so good. You know, I love German lager beers. The Czech unpasteurized lagers as well that you get in the little brauhouses are always great too. But yeah, this beer gives you everything that you would want from a Helles lager, which isn't surprising, and this is one of the reasons why this brewery is so well respected. So you've got the kind of breadiness, you've got a little bit of hoppy character in there and just a tiny little bit of fruitiness. These beers are intended just to be very drinkable and easygoing. That is what you want from a German Helles lager. But let's break the aroma down and just describe it a wee bit more in depth before we taste the beer. So yeah, for me, the backbone of this beer, you've got a lovely little bit of a kind of fresh, white bready bread crust coming out of this one. So yeah, lovely fresh white bready bread crust in there. You've got a little bit of a kind of woody note in there too, which is kind of interesting. A little bit of kind of Jacob's cream cracker. But yeah, absolutely the backbone of this beer is just that fresh white bready bread crust, almost like it's straight out of the bakery. I do miss the German bakeries from my time in Heidelberg. I loved going and getting German bread. But yeah, a little bit of white bread crust, wee tiny bit of woodiness, some crackery notes, and then you've got that big fluffy white bready note coming out of this one. And it's quite a sweet white bread, I would add as well. But it does smell absolutely beautiful, but lovely soft and smooth and fluffy white bready character coming out of this one. So yeah, aroma wise, I think this beer is really very, very nice. Yeah, awesome stuff on that count. Above the breadiness, you do start to get a little touch of a kind of biscuity character, like a McVitie's Digestive Biscuit or something like that. There is a little touch of sweetness to this beer. It's a little bit concentrated in the middle of the nose, but you do get the more kind of crispy biscuity notes coming out of this one too. So yeah, the way this beer goes together in that regard is very, very nice. Yeah, awesome stuff in that sense. On the hoppy side of things, you've got a good little bit of earthiness coming out of the beer. So yeah, a little bit of smooth earthiness in there, which is good. You'll always, from the German noble hops, you always get a lovely bright floral aromaticity and grassiness in there. And you're certainly getting that in this beer, but there's always just a little touch of a smooth earthiness coming out of this one. So yeah, you can smell that in the background, a little bit of smooth earthiness, a little touch of herbal character. Yeah, a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of herbal character. You've got that, you do have that little bit of floral aromaticity at the front of the nose too, and then you've got a nice little bit of grassiness in there too. So yeah, I mean, yeah, the green component in this one just complements everything else that's going on. very, very nicely. It's exactly what you'd expect, to be honest with you, but it's still just, I could sit and smell this thing all day. I love the smell of fresh German Helles lager. It's always great. So yeah, lovely mix of just white bread and noble hoppy character in this one. Most of the German, there are different kinds of German noble hops, of course. You've got like the typical Mittelfrüh or something like that, mid-spring, which is going to give you a kind of 4.5% alpha acid or something. But you've got the stronger ones like Pearl and Hercules and all of this that will give you the slightly stronger notes. But yeah, this one is most definitely kind of nice and smooth in that sense. I'm pretty sure this is the kind of standard Mittelfrüh hop that's been used in this one. But that covers the green component anyways. Lovely smooth grassiness and bright floral aromaticity as well. Just a little touch of herbal and earthy character behind that. But yeah, let's do this. In terms of the fruity side of things, again, it's kind of what you'd expect. There's a very there's a little bit of a kind of sultana type quality to this one, dry white green grape. You've got a little bit of that going on. You've got a little touch of a kind of oily pear, maybe a very slight apricot-y note, and then a little bit of there's a wee touch of like fresh green apple coming out of this one, but mainly it's dry apricot, oily pear, and a few other things going on in this one too. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really quite nice. It gets a big thumbs up from me aroma-wise. I could sit and smell it all day, but I think it is about time that we have a taste of this one and see what it's all about. But do spend some time pondering over the aroma of your beers before you get stuck into them. But yeah, this one is the Andechser Hell, a 4.8% Helles lager beer from Klosterbrauerei Andechs in Andechs in Bavaria in the south of Germany. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers, prost. Yeah, absolutely love it. Yeah. That, in some ways I wish I lived in Germany again. In other ways I know it would be very dangerous. These beers are just so nice to drink. This is a lovely Helles lager, I have to say. It's been a while since I've had a kind of bigger produced Helles lager, and I mean these guys, the Klosterbrauerei Andechs is a big operation, but the stuff you get is really good quality. I mean, when it comes to quality control and things like that, you can rely on the big German and Czech breweries to do things very, very well. But yeah, these beers are just so nice. This gets a massive thumbs up from me once again. Yeah, this gives you everything that you'd want. You've got the breadiness, the smoothness, a little bit of crispness out of this one, and the hoppy characters there giving you a little bit of bright floral aromaticity and things, and you've got a wee touch of a kind of oily, fruity character coming out of this one too. So yeah, it's lovely stuff. So yeah, where do we start with this one then? Yeah, it is pretty damn awesome, I have to say. Yeah, we'll start on the middle third of the palate then, as we always do. So, the backbone of this beer, absolutely, you've got that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust just forming the backbone of the beer. Further forward on that middle third of your palate, you start to get a little bit of a kind of there's a little touch of woody character comes out of this one. I think that's absolutely fair to say. So yeah, a little touch of woodiness to the beer, and that lingers into the aftertaste a little bit. But then above the kind of fresh white bready bread crust, you get this little touch of there's a little touch of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity character coming out of it, and it's again just very, very nice. So yeah, a little bit of just Jacob's. Did I say McVitie's digestive? You get that more into the aftertaste, but yeah, you get this above the bread crust. You get this little bit of kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing going on, and that lingers into the aftertaste too. But when I think about this Helles in comparison to some of the other ones I've had, I would say that this one is a little bit of a more kind of crisp example of the style. So yeah, I do like how this pieces together for sure. So, in terms of the in terms of the rest of the malt base, above the kind of crackery layer that I was talking about, you do get a nice little touch. There's like a very thin layer of a slightly wholemeal brown bready character to this one, but that is very minimal. But above that, you've got a lovely, fluffy, big, fluffy white bready character coming out of this beer, which is just awesome. So yeah, you've got this lovely, big, fluffy, white bready character coming out of the beer. And then, above all of that, you can feel, you start to get some of the sweeter side of the malt base just pushing its way out of the beer. So yeah, the fluffy white bready layer in the middle 30 parts actually got a little bit of height to it, and it's really nice. But yeah, above the top of that white bread, you start to get the sweeter elements of the malt base coming out. Like you get a little bit in the dead centre of your palate. You've got just a little circle there that sits in the middle of your tongue, and it's got a little circle there that sits in the middle of the tongue, and you've got that really nice, like almost concentrated McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing coming out of the beer. So yeah, that goes together really nicely. And as you move out toward the edges of your palate, it's as you move out toward the edges of your palate, you start to get a little bit more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing coming out of this one. You can feel it's just like a concentrated oily biscuit in the dead centre of your palate, and that's the booze coming out of the beer. But as you move out toward the edges of your palate there, you get the more kind of crisp biscuity note coming out of the beer too. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So on top of that, you'll I think the further into the aftertaste you go, the biscuity sweetness will just kind of linger there. This beer gets a little bit more sweeter and a little bit drier the further into the aftertaste that you go. But it's very, very nice, and as I say, it gets a big thumbs up from me. In terms of the middle third of your palate, I think that's everything we really need to say about this one, to be honest with you. Let's go on to the back third of your palate then. So the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a really nice kind of bready build up in there, kind of white bready character again. And then the back, as I often say, on the back third of your palate, you get very similar flavours to what you would on the front third of your palate. They just come out in different intensities. So yeah, on the back third of the palate, you've got a bit more of the bread crust, which feels a little bit drier. Then on top of that, you have the on top of that, you've got a little bit more of a kind of crackery note once again, and the crackery character is a little bit drier. You get a little bit more of a kind of wholemeal brown bready sweetness there in the base. It's a little touch taller and a little bit more airy. And then above that, you get the fluffy white bready character that we talked about earlier, which again is very tall and very kind of very tall and airy as well. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, it's really quite nice in that sense. So, in terms of the yeasty side of the beer, that sits above the kind of white bready character there. You do have this very slight, kind of like very light, airy, almost like farmhousey bready character there. It's a little bit more dense and kind of sweet in a sense there, so you've got a bit of that dense kind of sweet character in there. It's kind of wrapped in honeycomb a little bit. I always get honeycomb from the yeasty character in beers. I'm not sure why, but yeah, definitely getting a little bit of that out of this one. But you can certainly feel that on the back third of your palate, the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, that's pretty interesting, I have to say. On the kind of fruity side of things, then I would say it's on the hoppy side of things. Yeah, the green component. In terms of the green component, I would say in the back corners of the palate, you have a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward into the you get a little touch of herbal character, and as you push toward the kind of front corners of the palate, you've got a little bit more floral aromaticity coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that goes together is quite nice too. The smoothness you get out of these hops is very nice actually. German hops always have that smooth, earthy and herbal character, but then the very bright floral and grassy side of things. So yeah, you get a little bit more floral aromaticity on the front corners of the palate, and then round the front curve of the tongue, you've got a nice little bit of a brighter, grassy sort of thing going on. So yeah. So yeah, there's a nice floral aromaticity there, a little bit of a grassy note. It does become a little bit wetter from that perspective the more that you drink of the beer too. But yeah, let's focus on the front third of your palate and the fruity side of things. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get a nice little bit of a bready build up in there, which is nice. So yeah, nice little bit of bready build up. And then above that, you get the little bit of bready build up. It's kind of brown bread in the base, white bread in the top. Then the base of that front third of your palate is a little bit more of a kind of, it's got a little bit more of a kind of bread crusty base. There's a little bit of cracker on it. Then you get a mix of the brown and white bread. Then you get that little oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a little look at the fruity side of things. So, for me, the fruity side of things is kind of, as we picked up in the aroma, at the back of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of a kind of, there's a little bit of a sort of kind of sultana type note, you know, dry white green grapes. As you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, the middle of that front third of your palate, sorry, it develops to be a bit more of an oily pearish type character, and then underneath that you've got a little touch of like a dry apricot-y type note, which is really interesting. And as you move into the toward the very front kind of tip of your tongue, there's like a little touch of like an almost gooseberry kind of note out of this one, if we can call it that. So it's really interesting actually. The fruity notes in this beer are quite oily compared to some other Helles lagers that I've come across before, but I think it works really well, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, in terms of the flavour then, I think that's everything we really need to say about this one. It's a really nice Helles, this one. A little bit drier in some aspects compared to other ones, but the more you drink of it, the more oily it gets, and it does get slightly more. Does get slightly sweeter the more that you drink of it too. But beautiful beer, this one. Really, really nice, and a great example of the style in my mind. So yeah, to round off this review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. For me, obviously it's a light-bodied beer. The carbonation is very, very smooth on this one. Has that German smoothness, as I like to say. Very easy to drink. So yeah, you've got that big, lovely German smoothness to this one. In terms of IBUs, I think it's a fairly standard, you know, 50, probably about 20-ish IBUs, which is kind of common for this style, maybe 25. The malt base is very, very smooth. You've got a nice little bit of dryness to it, lovely little bit of kind of smoothness as well, and it does give you a wee bit more sweetness the further into the aftertaste that you go, which is great. And you've got this lovely oily, fruity sort of thing coming out of it as well. So yeah, this is an awesome, awesome example of the Helles style, and a fairly accessible one, I guess we could say too. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one, to be honest with you. This one was the Andechser Hell, a 4.8% Helles lager beer from Klosterbrauerei Andechs in Bavaria in the south of Germany. I think I need to go there and have a little look at the monastery and visit their restaurant and things, and just make an out and about video. That would be an awesome one to do, actually. There's a few places around Munich that I really would like to go and visit at some point, so that might well be a destination for sometime over the next wee while. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review, to be honest with you. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Klosterbrauerei Andechs as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the near future. There are a few beers that I really want to try from these guys. But until the next time, slàinte, skål, cheers, prost, and I'll see you on the next review. Ciao just now.